what are your observations on how a culture is built? And two, how do you see the culture at this brokerage firm?
Man, that's a loaded question.
Hey, that's what I'm here for. Hey, what's up? My name's Kaleo, owner of Hawaii Institute of Real Estate and founder of HighRealtyCourses.com. I'm here with Dan Sepulveda. He is the principal broker at Real Brokerage, which I am a part of, and we're really happy to be in his office, a flex unit at Kohina in Ho'opili. Are we in Ho'opili? Yeah.
Ho'opili.
Yeah. Dan, say what's up to...
Yeah. Like I said, Dan Sepulveda, been with Real Broker about going on 2 years now. Yeah, just excited to be here. Excited to have a little chat.
Yeah. A little about yourself. I know you're a Marine medic with the Navy.
Yeah.
Right? How does that work? I have people tell me like, so are you a Marine or are you in the Navy?
Yeah, so it's always a fun conversation. And it's something it's just not common knowledge. You know, combat medic is like the generic term, right? But when it comes to our job, our title, it's actually Navy Corpsman.
Okay.
Corps, much like the Marine Corps, Corpsman.
Corpse.
Yeah, right, Corpsman. And actually, I think we got called that by a certain president at one point.
Oh.
We're all just like, come on. But yeah, so we're sailors through and through. I mean, we went to Navy boot camp. We went to what they call A school to learn how to be, medics in the field.
Mm-hmm.
And but in my case, and it's not everybody's case, but in my case, I spent the first three plus years in the Marine Corps infantry. So I wore those desert camis, those woodland camis. The only difference between my uniform and this corporal's over here is that mine said U.S. Navy on this little tag here.
Okay.
But literally the same uniform, both in garrison, stateside, and downrange in Afghanistan. I mean, wore the same thing.
What is garrison?
Garrison is just, I guess, a way to say like stateside, like not in operations abroad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And you are one of the youngest principal brokers, if not the youngest principal broker in the entire state of Hawaii. How the heck did that happen?
Yeah, and ignorance is kind of bliss. I didn't really know that until, kind of sitting around in some state meetings and just looking around the faces in the crowd. It's just like, okay, I think some of these folks got a couple decades on me in life and in the business. But, much like the military, actually, it's, I mean, coming up in my maybe like 20s or something like that, like it just kind of dawned on me that like experience in a sense of years, in a sense of years. And I mean, we hear it all the time in the industry, right? Well, I've been doing this for 25 years or something like that. It's just like, well, that's nice. And I have the utmost respect. But as we both know, and it's the same in the military, and the same in real estate, is like, that doesn't necessarily mean competence.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean, pride in craft, pride in knowing what you're doing.
Right.
And much like anything I've ever done in life, I mean, my first job was McDonald's, like I put pride into throwing the cheese on the cheeseburger symmetrically, right? As compared to, how many times you open up a double cheeseburger and the cheese is just, falling off the paper. I've always put a lot of pride into whatever craft I have. And as I jumped into real estate, I mean, the name of the game was learn, grow, know what the contract means, know what you're doing, know what you're saying. I mean, yeah, it's sales, but I've never been a fan of the hustle grind mentality. It's just like, are you taking care of people? And if you are, at the core of all of that needs to be competence. So
Agreed.
yeah, so that's at sometimes I see myself in those rooms and I get intimidated, but then we start having the conversations and I'm just like, I think you're missing the point here, Mrs. 20 years in the industry. Like, yeah, so, I, suffer from some imposter syndrome sometimes, but, the second I, actually, lean back on my knowledge and stuff like that, suddenly it's not so intimidating.
Yeah. We have people watching that may not know what a principal broker is, right? They may be new to real estate or just trying to understand what this whole world of realty is about. Could you explain what a principal broker does?
Trying to think about it, like when it comes to So if we're speaking to anybody in the military, the easiest way to speak to that population is the commanding officer.
Okay.
The commanding officer in which, like I don't know if we've watched the news in the past years, the naval ships out in the middle of nowhere, in the Pacific or in the Atlantic. And then by some crazy chance, due to probably the incompetence of younger sailors or negligence of, younger sailors, ships collide, which is a crazy thought. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like to be so massive in such a vast sea for that to ever occur, right?
Okay.
Well, the fact of the matter is it's the commanding officer's fault, right? And to go back to real estate, that's the same concept here, right? So, I mean, we're nearing 140, probably 150 agents here in a couple months, and the blessing and the curse is that that's a direct reflection of I never like to say my leadership because I do have an amazing team behind me, but it does fall on my leadership as a commanding officer of our brokerage. So
Right.
job is to lead, the job is to teach, the job is to be there for all of our agents, and the buck stops with me. I wouldn't say that ever if it wasn't for like literally a continuing education course that literally kind of drilled that into our heads. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It looks like we read a lot of the same books.
Yeah.
I see your bookshelf over there. What are you reading now?
Reading now is Stillness is Key by Ryan Holiday. It's kind of crazy. Like back in college and stuff like that, we were kind of forced to go into, courses like psychology, sociology, philosophy. Could care less in 2005, right?
Okay.
It was just mixed priorities as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
The last thing I, cared about was learning how one thinks, right? And in my 30s, it's all I'm concerned about. It's all I'm interested is like how your thoughts are come together, and how to center oneself. I mean, we always get taught like how to meditate or all these things that are self-serving in all the best ways, but we're not taught them in our general education system. Yeah. I came to this revelation, and it's not a personal one. I think I've read it. How amazing is the gift of a book, right? Like,
Go on. Yes. I mean,
I literally, I mean, this is probably in the last couple of months. I just had the thought of like, how amazing is the gift of a book, both in a gifting you a book, right? Nice little sentiment in the front cover,
Yeah.
Nice little gift for, that means something that hopefully you find value in as much as I did. But at the same time, the gift of the author, you know what I mean? So the author has, a lifetime of living knowledge, experience, failures, successes, failures. And, you tie it all together in a single book so that maybe your starting line doesn't have to be leaps and bounds that way. But, we were talking about privilege earlier, right?
Okay.
Maybe you get to shift that starting line a little more forward because this gift of knowledge in a single book here allows you to start at a different starting point. Right. So, yeah, I mean, books it's crazy. I'm the weird guy actually. And it was funny. I was, talking with another person in the industry yesterday. I guess I've become the weird person in the gym, Stairmaster treadmill, crank that up, get the heart rate in the right zone.
Okay.
And I'm reading. My goal is minimum 10 pages
You
a
have
day.
a book on the Stairmaster.
I read on the Stairmaster every day.
Have you ever heard of Audible?
I mean, there's something just tangible about it. And
No, I agree. I'm just not on the Stairmaster.
Yeah.
For me.
Well, and I think it's crazy. It's an absolute crazy thought, but there's going back to knowledge, going back to, learning things, right? There's actually multiple layers of benefit here, right? So if I'm trying to fat burn, for example, one, I've learned in a book what your heart rate zone needs to be in the fat burning zone versus the cardio zone. Two different zones.
Are we talking about like zone 2 cardio?
Yeah.
Okay.
And zone 2 cardio is right around that area where it's a little difficult to hold a conversation.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's not cardio, right? Where we're, trying to score a PR in a mile run or a 2 mile run or something like that. So
Yeah.
in all honesty, when I'm reading a book on the treadmill, it's at the max incline of 15. It's at roughly 2.8 to 3.1 miles per hour.
Okay.
Super, super manageable. My heart gets in that zone. I've got a nice strong core, because I'm like engaging. I'm walking with intention.
Yeah.
And then I'm exercising my mind.
Nice.
So it's just like multiple layers of like, wow, this is how to, another book, right? Oh man, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, The Power
What's
of
it about?
Habit Stacking.
Okay. Yeah.
Habit stacking.
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits,
Yeah.
maybe. Yeah.
James Clear.
Yeah. And it's just like stack these things on top of each other that, I always call it like mindless time, right? If you're folding laundry, listen to the Audible, right? That's when I get on Audible, right? I'm doing laundry, I'm cooking. But, something as crazy as, reading a book on a treadmill, it's very intentional, but like literally I'm doing so many things at once. I'm engaging my mind, I'm engaging my core because I'm walking intentionally, and I've got my heart rate in that sweet spot of fat burning. So
Yeah.
it's crazy, but
I love it.
but it's awesome, man. Cause literally exercising mind and body at once.
Yeah. What's a day like in the principal broker world?
Sure.
Because I know that you're also an agent as well, right? So you're still selling real estate as well as having duties for the brokerage firm.
So I'm an early riser. I go back and forth with a mental battle: is do I want to see the 4 a.m. hour, or is 5 o'clock okay?
What time you got to go to bed to do the 4 a.m.?
Well, the blessing that I have right now is I have a 6-month-old, right? So kind of again, living with intention, right? Getting her into a routine. I try to go dark around 8 o'clock. Not no screen time.
Got it.
Yeah, I take that back. I'm a liar. I know that watching TV, in bed is probably like not the best interest, right?
Okay.
Because you get the screen light or whatever. That's probably one of my biggest vices, if I have many. But it's my way to unwind. So down somewhere in the 8 o'clock hour. Now, am I falling asleep that fast? Absolutely not. But I'm starting to unwind, starting to relax. And then I'm up in anywhere from 4:40 to 5 a.m. And I try my best to actually not work in that 5 a.m. hour, but going back to habit stacking, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I'm trying to do, I can't speak knowledgeably of it, but I'm fascinated by neuroplasticity, right? Keeping the brain sharp, keeping the brain learning. So one of these goofy things that I do in the mornings is I brush my teeth with my left hand, right?
Okay.
I'm right-handed.
Okay.
So I'm brushing my teeth with my left hand. And if I feel like I messed up anything, I go back with the right. But anyway, I brush my teeth with my left hand, and I'm knocking out emails real quick.
With your right hand.
With my right hand.
Jeez.
So, as much as I don't want to work in that hour, I get to work, just knocking out the low hanging fruit, the quick thanks, the, deleting of the excess. But so then I get into my health process, right? I mean, I do call it a process because it's a little bit more lengthy than advised when it comes to working out and everything. But it's about a 2-hour process. But I mean, I don't see it as any kind of bad thing because I already talked about cardio and reading, so I'm getting my daily reading in while I'm doing my cardio. Then I get my calisthenics and weight training in.
What time is this?
This is in the 6 o'clock hour.
Okay.
7 o'clock hour is where the remnants of weight training goes in, and then stretching.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm a big stretcher. The military took a lot of my youth. So now I'm just trying to keep my flexibility and mobility. But then I do sauna, right? Because I come from a family of health history. When they always ask all those basics, like anybody in your family, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, any of these things. Unfortunately, I get to say all the above, right? So I'm a big believer in the sauna. And I do a little bit of hot training and go from there, and then try to get to my desk.
You have where's your sauna?
At the gym.
Okay.
At the gym. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
and then try to get to my desk, you know,
A
right
whole
around.
Peely gym?
I wish, you know,
Where's your gym?
24 hour.
Oh, okay, okay,
Yeah,
cool.
couple day. But I get to my desk right around 9 o'clock.
So you leave
back
the
home.
house and work out at
Yeah,
7? Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, I do have the at home gym and everything too, and that's kind of nice for the convenience. But just shaking up the environment, and
Yeah,
yeah, I don't have a sauna, and the sauna is kind of something I fell in love with in the last year or so.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What are some foods that the FDA would say are good for us that you believe are not good for us?
Oh man.
I've been reading up on like the carnivore diet now,
Yeah.
people are talking about, right?
You know what? When it comes to diet, I mean, diet's, you know, kind of fascinating. When it comes to diet, like I think the greatest, you know, I've played around with carnivore. I've played around with keto. Um, I tried, well, I'm not even going to say vegan or vegetarian because I'm not intelligent enough to know the difference, but, you know, I did vegetables for like a week, you know, a lot of, what do you call it? Portobello, you know,
Nice.
just cause it had
Get
that,
that
steak.
umami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, I think on the diet front is the best thing I've ever heard is eat real food, right? Real food is animals. Real food is
Yeah.
grows, right? You know, vegetables.
Yeah, real
Eat
food.
real food, mostly vegetables. You know, so one of my daily trackers is I try to get on a daily, you know, because I don't believe in the I won't eat, you know, kind of diet mentality. I think of it the opposite way is I will eat 2 servings of fruits and 3 servings of vegetables. It's kind of one of the metrics I guess track daily. Eat real food, mostly vegetables, and not a lot. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
kind of the most simplistic diet advice I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And I can agree with, right? We got, you know, I mean, to go into what processed foods are and, you know, the sole fact that we were told cereal is a breakfast food like, is so, I mean, and granted, I'm not above it, man. I love Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
like I'll never touch these. I mean, I love my sweets like any other person, but you know, to be told like when we were children that, you know, cereal is a breakfast food, Pop Tarts are breakfast foods,
Yep.
Eggo waffles are breakfast foods. So it's like no, and then we wonder why children have behavioral disorders and, you know, childhood obesity and all these things. But that's another story. Yeah, eat real food.
Yeah.
And not a lot. You know, portion distortion is real in America.
Yeah.
So
Well, what happens is we eat fake food and then you have to eat more,
Yeah.
right? Because you don't have the nutrients.
there's
and-
no nutrients, there's no fiber, there's no sense of filling. I mean, how many times? I mean, like I said, I'm not above junk food. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, I love hot. What do you call it? Hot Cheetos. You know, like that's what I grew up on. But you know, like literally a bag of hot Cheetos. I mean, you can kill a bag in a single setting.
Yeah.
Right. And it's because there's no nutrients.
Yeah,
There's
you
no,
still need to eat
Yeah.
after that. Yeah.
So it's just like, damn, I literally just killed this entire bag, but I'm still hungry. Why
Yeah.
is this? So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'm stoked that we have a lot in common as far as like, I mean, I'm not as fit as you, but reading the same books and but you have more attention to detail than I do, which is valuable in a principal broker.
Sure.
So I'm appreciative of that aspect of what you got going on, this total Dan Sepulveda package.
Yeah.
What is something that, so it's a two-part question. What do new agents need to know? What would you prefer new agents knew, right? You being a principal broker and using every contract across your desk. And 2, what are some of the biggest contract mistakes?
Well, I guess to, you know, kind of start, I like the dynamic that you and I have, because one, as a principal broker and really just as a man, as what is important to me in a person's character is competence and craft.
Okay.
I think we said that earlier. So I think it begins first with knowing, you know, like as a corpsman, the algorithm, the pathway of how to save one's life, you know, is something that was drilled into my mind, right? You know, we call it, it's called P-March-P, right? Protect yourself, protect your patient, massive hemorrhaging, airway, respirations, circulation, and head and hypothermia.
Okay.
and patient evacuation. But anyway, that was what was drilled into my mind, right? So, we were talking about emergency that we experienced in the last week, and
Right.
and my mind, just because it's literally it's drilled in there, literally first went to like massive hemorrhaging, right? Bleeding, control the bleeding. There was no blood, but that was like where my mind went right away. And it's funny because it's just drilled in. But anyway, that's because as a corpsman, as a combat medic, I had pride in craft. This
Right.
is what we're entrusted with. Well, translating into real estate, same deal. Pride in craft. Like in my opinion, it starts with the purchase contract, right? Know this purchase contract.
I agree.
I just please know the purchase contract. I'm not saying you got to know what, I mean, I say these letters and I kind of know them, but I'm not saying, tell me what K2 is, tell me what M1 is, tell me what J1 is, tell me what J3 is. I'm not saying, like, I mean, obviously get to that point.
Yeah, it'll come in time.
It'll come.
Yeah.
But when somebody says, hey, can you explain to me like this entire M1 section? Like, what is this? And you should be able to go like, hey,
Right.
all homes, most homes are subject to condo association documents, to some kind of CC&Rs of the community. What we see here on this list is not entirely inclusive, but not limited to everything we see here.
Yeah.
And the most important thing is just what is important to you. Going back to M1 docs, what's important to you? Are you trying to grow chickens or raise chickens? Because like that's always a funny one in Evan Beach. No poultry. You know what I mean? Or oh, you have 4 dogs. Okay, is there any pet restrictions here? But if you're an agent that cares, you're going to know. Maybe you captured in your buyer's consultation that you should have that they breed dogs, right? And if you're in a community that doesn't allow
Right.
multiple breeds, well, you're setting them up for failure. You know what I mean? So. Most important thing to me, just competence in the bread and butter of our industry, and it starts with the purchase contract. Going back to the dynamic that I enjoy about you and I is that, and I think it is incredibly important, but then you get into the tactics, the tonality, the delivery of bad news, like the salesman kind of skills, and those things are important, but like not without the foundation.
Absolutely.
Not without the foundation of knowledge and firm understanding of the purchase contract. Those things are massively important, right? Without those skills, you're not going to go anywhere. But heaven forbid you have those skills and you don't know your contracts, right? Then what kind of service?
I agree. It's it's unfortunate and it's great, but it's also unfortunate. There's two sides of the coin. That the barrier for entry into real estate in Hawaii is so low, right? It's in order to become a realtor, you need to take a 60-hour course with the Hawaii Institute of Real Estate. And get signed on with a broker and then pay some dues, like literally money.
Yeah.
Pay money, license fees, MLS fees, broker fees maybe, and then you're in. You're 100% in. And so the barrier to entry is so low that almost anybody can do it as long as you're 18 years old and you have a high school degree equivalent.
Which is a recent requirement, mind you.
Right.
So we just bumped up that barrier for entry just the slightest bit in recent years.
Now the barrier to entry is low, but the barrier to entry for like actual real estate success is pretty high.
Yes, very much so.
And so the barrier, that middle area between, hey, I can legally do this, and hey, I'm actually competent and I'm able to help a lot of people, and make a living from this. All this middle area is where you can mess up,
right?
and do damage to the consumers. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board with what you're saying. Core competency in the bread and butter, which is the purchase contract.
Yeah. Got to learn before you earn. I mean, that's the easiest way to say it.
Yeah.
Learn before you earn.
Yeah. So you chose Real Broker. If you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes, just telling me what you love most about this brokerage firm and what are some of the benefits for agents?
Sure. So I think to begin with, like the direction of real estate in general, real estate brokerages, I mean, it's obviously changing. I mean, there's been some pioneers that have shaken up the entire industry about, going from your your office-based, face-to-face agents to, your cloud-based brokerage.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. What I really enjoy about Real Broker is that there's been some pioneers who have shaken up the industry before us. And while we might not be first, we are coming along with a lot of lessons learned from some of those pioneers who have, actually jumped ship, right? Because, maybe, as they say, it grows so fast, the wheel started to come off. And that's not throwing shade or anything like that, but it's just lessons learned. And what I really enjoy about Real Broker, as I came on board and I continue to do today, is that the agent has a voice. The agent has a voice. As a matter of fact, one thing that's incredibly important to me, as the principal broker is, while I'm here to serve, while I'm here to educate, while I'm here to mentor, whatever it may be for our agents, I'm also saying like, hey, that's a really good idea. Go start a fire, go start a spark, go light a spark in the change that you want to see in this company, because you still have a voice. As a matter of fact, I would like your voice to be louder than mine. There's 50 of us, state brokers across the nation. I want your voice to be louder than ours. Right. So I think that was a really big appeal to me, is that, the company was post startup. I mean, the real roots go back to 2014.
Okay.
Right. So post startup and really pre-scale, if the stock market's an indicator of anything, I mean, just take a look at our publicly traded stock in the last year to date. Right.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
People say 100% as like a colloquialism, but
right.
no, it's the stock is up 100%,
100%
over a month.
So yeah. I think it's amazing that, again, we're post startup, we're post idea, and I think we're really pre-scale.
We have proof of concept now.
Proof of concept, proof of profit. I mean, we're a profitable company. And like I said, most importantly, the agent has a voice.
Yeah.
So I think that's the coolest part. I mean, anytime an agent comes to me, it's like, hey, do you think the company could do this? I'm just like, go talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's not me passing the buck. It's like, no, I want to empower you to make the difference, because this is an agent serving company. It's probably a greater agent serving company than it is a broker company. And that's not talking trash. That's a point of pride, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to talk about culture for a little bit, because you as Dan Sepulveda have been a part of several cultures, right? Military culture, this church culture, right? Illinois culture,
Sure.
Hawaii culture. One, what are your observations on how a culture is built? And two, how do you see the culture at this brokerage firm?
Man, that's a loaded question.
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
That's a real loaded question. So in theory and in practice, I think is two different things, right?
Right. Well, one of my favorite quotes, and Jeremy, my business partner, Jeremy, always puts it right back at me. In theory, there's no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is.
I like that. So I think at the core of any culture is some kind of shared beliefs.
Yes.
Right. Some kind of shared beliefs. I mean, if we really got to chop it down to something, I mean, gender, skin color, race, ethnicity, religion. Well, religion, I guess, would be beliefs. But like at the core of all of those is some kind of shared beliefs. And, kind of like, again, go back to like theory and practice. Like in my 30s, I look back at my fraternities. We called it the Declaration of Principles.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was literally a thing that was drilled into us during our pledgeship, right? We're going through the shenanigans. But in my 30s, I really started to dissect like the essential elements of real brotherhood. We believe the essential elements of true brotherhood are love, charity, and esteem.
Okay.
Love that binds our hearts with the sturdy cords of fraternal affection.
Wow.
18-year-old me, I'm memorizing a line. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm memorizing a line. Like whatever gets me out of this wall sit. Am I ratting us out right now? But whatever gets me out of this uncomfortable situation at this moment and on to the next thing. But love that binds our hearts with the sturdy cords of fraternal affection. 18-year-old me meant absolutely nothing. Love that binds our hearts with the sturdy cords of fraternal affection means everything to me in the military and post-military. Because, in practice, right? Love that binds our hearts with the sturdy cords of fraternal affection. When I joined the military, it was for nobility. It was for pride of country. It was for service to country. When I went to Afghanistan and we were in situations, I mean, I'm not going to say like I'm in any kind of war hero. I didn't do anything too crazy.
I'm not, sorry, I said sure. No, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I
when
meant.
we were downrange just means, forward deployed, Afghanistan in my case. When we were downrange, like no matter what was going on, like, yeah, we were there serving our country, but the risk we took was for the love of one another. Like the love that binds our hearts with the sturdy cords of fraternal affection, fraternal being brother, fraternal being love for your fellow man.
Yeah.
Right. And I could go into the other declaration of principles, but like it means something, right? It's a set of shared beliefs and like I said, I mean, a fraternity is kind of funny because 18-year-olds, 18 to 21-year-olds may not be thinking so philosophically at that age, but like that was our shared beliefs. And the reason why I'm still involved in my fraternity to this day is arguably because of that, because now I understand. Wow. And then we go into, one of Real's core values is work hard and be kind. Like, I'm almost the anti-realtor sometimes because like, and I need to get better, but I do celebrate our agents and I am appreciative of all your accomplishments, but I'm of the service mind. Like, like as much as I want to say, hey, Kaleo did X amount of volume in sales, cool story, bro. Like, but tell me the successes of those families. You know what I mean? Like, tell me what's going on with those families. Tell me about the families you serve. Tell me about the lives you change, because that's what's more important, right? And going back to culture, work hard and be kind is one of our core values at Real Broker. And I couldn't agree with that more. Building your future together is one of our core values, right? Like, I come from humble roots. I mean, my parents are, high school and not high school educated. Like, I'm always like cautious to talk about this because I don't want to speak ill in any way, but they gave us the best lives they could with the resources they had, which is much greater than how they grew up. So I'm incredibly appreciative, but they're still humble roots. And, something as simple as building your future together, like that actually means something to me because, now I'm going to sound like a salesman, but the power of real estate can change your life. It's changed my life. I don't come from poverty by any means, but I don't come from wealth. And I've drastically changed, the trajectory of my legacy, of my last name, with the power of real estate. So
right.
Culture is a shared set of beliefs. And while these can be, buzzwords on a wall somewhere or on a plaque, like they actually mean something to me. And I think it's going back to our, part of our original conversation about books and something like that, through education, through reading, like words have meaning in my 30s.
Yeah.
It's just not repetitive or like get through this book or something like that. So, but yeah, I think core set of beliefs, shared set of beliefs is at the core of any culture.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the school, we have a saying. Well, it's a favorite saying of a lot of educators in the state of Hawaii. It's a saying by King Kamehameha III. Have we talked about this? We haven't talked about this. His name was Kawikau Uli. And the story is, upon receiving the crown, age 11, he said, first he said, my kingdom belongs to God. That's in the books. And then he said, he aupuni palapala ko'u, which means mine is a kingdom that is educated. Oke kanaka pono oia ko'u kanaka. And the righteous man is my man. And so he drew a link between palapala, which is literacy, wisdom, and pono, righteousness, right living. But he's also, Kawikau Uli is also he's most famous for his most famous saying, which is uamau, ke ea oka aina ika pono. The life of the land is perpetuated in righteousness, or perpetuated because we are righteous. And So that same king drew a link between literacy, wisdom, and pono, righteousness, and then pono with the ea okaina, or the sovereignty of the land. And what we see there is a time and tested principle that comes up in a lot of the books that we enjoy, which is the better you can take care of your land, of what you have, and the more righteous your administration, the more righteous your stewardship, the more the universe, God, the community around you entrusts you with more. Right. And I think I see that in your life as a principal broker. You know, you take meticulous care of your sock drawer. So I have heard.
That's fair.
Yeah. There's some rumors about you out there.
That's funny.
But I mean, you expand that, your living space is pono, right? In the old understanding of what pono was, it was like the administration of his area is good. It is right. There's enough food in the house. The wife is happy. Things are clean. The laundry's done, that kind of thing. And the better we do that, the more we receive charge of. Right? You're smiling. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, I mean, even your hand motions have kind of just reaffirmed a belief and a thought I've had in recent times
Tell me.
Like, I mean, like mentorship is so interesting to me, right? And I mentored a lot I was mentored, and I mentored a lot during my time in the military, and even in real estate. I continue to do so.
Right.
I continue to be mentored, and I continue to mentor. And I always find myself just kind of going back to like almost like classics, right? Almost like, oh, here's my spiel again, or something like that.
Okay.
But your hand motions really kind of nailed it. And in order to serve, in order to experience any kind of change, in order to get from where you are to where you want to be, I almost look at it as like a target, like different rings on a target, right?
Okay.
And at the core, that little red dot being oneself, right? And it literally starts with oneself. Like, am I centered? What am I consuming? There's an amazing saying that's like your diet's not only what you put in your mouth, your diets are what you're mentally consuming, right? And reflect on that. What are you mentally consuming? Are your thoughts truly your thoughts? Or are your thoughts an algorithm that's feeding you on a daily basis? So because you're so glued to a screen.
We don't want to get into that, but no, keep going.
Right. So it's just like, remove that, right? And then sit with yourself in stillness, in quiet, who are you? And only when you can start to like expand on that, are you able to enter into that next ring, right?
Being,
I would say your immediate environment, almost like pre-family, almost like pre-relationship.
okay.
And I don't want to get into it, but like, get your room in order.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that the military drilled into us. It's just like, can you be trusted with the mundane? Right? Can you be trusted with the things that don't matter? Like, people miss the point. You're talking about my sock drawer. That's where it comes from, right? In boot camp, literally my rack being bed, was like the example as they were teaching the drill instructors. Like, hey, what does a proper like layout of one's stuff in the bed, because it was like a locker.
Right.
What does this actually look like in practice? Well, let me show you. It's Sepulveda's bed over here. I literally came back one day and they're all around my rack and they're just like, it's him. And I'm just like, what did I screw up? And they're just like, is this yours? Good job. And then they, military doesn't haze. Yeah. But, and then I, proceeded to do a lot of calisthenics. But, it literally starts at that next level. Like, get your room in order, get your immediate environment in order. If you have a stack of papers on your desk that is just piling up because there's just madness in there, just make a dent in that.
Yeah.
Pull that one bill off the top of the pile and
Do something.
do something. Make sounds cheesy. Make your bed.
Yeah.
Put something in order, right?
Yeah.
Because if one's self is not in order, right, then how are you going to graduate to one's immediate environment, right?
Yeah.
And then only upon self and immediate environment, I'm not a relationship advisor by any means. My wife and I've been together for half our life now, and we've seen all the roller coasters that a relationship and a marriage can go through. But I think that a lot of people seek external validation in relationships prior to having those two elements in order first. And how fast do those relationships go to trash?
Wow.
Because they don't know who they are. They don't have their immediate environment in order. They don't know, what kind of profession they want to seek. They don't have their self in order. And then they go seeking external validation in a relationship. And because they are lost on those two immediate levels, all of that goes to trash, right?
Yeah.
And then only upon self, immediate environment, maybe relationship, should you then be reaching out to your community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, then if you're able to graduate through those levels and you have those things in relative order, I'm not saying everything's got to be perfect, but then can you actually start making an impact beyond oneself, beyond one's family or relationship, and then to the greater community, right? Because you know who you are. You have those matters in order. Now you get to make a greater impact. And, trying to say this as professional as possible without throwing shade, but then there's, your social justice warriors that are out there that are just sharing, all the different, regurgitation of somebody else's thoughts. So I'm going to share this photo. I'm going to jump on this next social, I don't even know, like controversial kind of thing, whether it's a war in Palestine or whether it's, gender identities. And it's just like, well, like, get these things in order first and then intelligently attack those things. Intelligently go voice your thoughts because you've centered oneself. Cool. Your home is in order. Your family, your relationship is in order. You're a service to your immediate community. And upon those graduated steps, do I think that you can make a worldly impact, right? But so many people just want to kind of skip, levels.
Well, I think what I see sometimes is when people are so externally focused about, when you can get obsessed about telling other people how they're supposed to live their lives, complaining about, let's say, governments or powers that be, like this, well, so-and-so should do it this way. And you even see it in the workplace, right? People might be complaining about a boss. I'm like, well, they should do it this way. Or you look back on your life and you blame your parents and like, oh, they should have done it this way. Like, I'm the way I am because of this, right? And a lot of it is just, it's almost abdicating one's personal responsibility, where it's like, well, everything else should be different, right? But me.
Yeah.
And I think this is from Stephen Covey. It may or may not be. I saw that book on your shelf. But there's this illustration about him helping his son clean the yard. I'm not sure if you remember that. I don't know if this is his example or if I kind of took it and kind of tweaked it. But when you have a yard, right, and your yard is nice, your neighbors, people who walk past, they'll take a look at your yard and like, wow, nice yard. And they may solicit advice from you. How do you get your grass that green? Now, if we expand the metaphor a little bit, let's say you're growing some bananas, right? And your bananas are looking pretty good. And because the bananas are doing good, you don't have to worry so much about the bananas. You plant some other things, maybe some tangerines. I'm just thinking back to my childhood in Pupukea, right? And people might walk past and say, hey, wow, your bananas are looking really good. How'd you get to do that? And you can share some fruit with them and you can give them advice on how to grow their bananas, right? But if your bananas are trash, right? You got trash bananas and your tangerines aren't fruiting, and you're looking over at your neighbor's yard and say, you know what you should do with your tangerines, right? Or you're advising them on how to grow a crop that you don't even have in your yard, right? Then that's not pono, right? That's not right for us to be advising on matters outside of our expertise, which is a real estate tip. we
Yeah.
cannot
Stay in
we
your
cannot
lane.
advise on matters outside our expertise. Like that's not the natural order of things,
Right.
to tell people how to do things that you don't have a proof of concept
Right.
in your own life. But if you have a proof of concept, now people start looking at your yard and they say like, well, wow, that's pretty cool. Hey, I have some seeds for pineapple, or I don't know if pineapples have seeds. Do you have seeds? I have starters for this type of crop. Your yard looks good. Could you grow some?
Yeah.
You apparently are very good at this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you start growing some stuff. Like, hey, this guy's really good at growing stuff. His domain is like, he's the example, right? His rack is neat, right? Let's give him more territory so you can grow more good stuff for us, right?
Yeah.
As a community. And just the natural order of things is no matter how small your thing is, your domain, we don't have an excuse to abdicate our responsibility for that small little thing. In my life, I remember I wanted a new car, and I didn't have the money for a new car at the time. And I thought about it, I was like, well, your stereo kind of, you don't have a CD player, and that's why you want the new car. So why don't you, like, what do you have? Like, I have $150. I could install a CD player, right? And just, well, the ceiling's falling down. That's why I'm not satisfied with my car. Like, well, how about you fix the ceiling, right? You know when the ceiling comes down in the car, right? So I hired a guy. It might have been $150 as well back then, and then got a new stereo. All of a sudden, I really like my car.
Yeah.
Right. And then the opportunity comes up, an opportunity comes in my lap, and it's like, well, I trust in myself to be able to take care of nice things, and I have saved enough money because I didn't go buy a car a year ago, so now I can upgrade.
Yeah.
Right? And that's in my life. That's my favorite example of, like, just take care of what you have.
Take care of what you have.
You don't have to be jealous of what other people have.
Right.
Just take care of what you got, and then the natural order of things will allow you to be able to expand your territory by righteous stewardship of what you already have.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I love it. I mean, and it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna
Speak freely, my friend.
I'm really difficult about like being proud of oneself. Like that's one of my weaknesses. But it really does start like that simple and that small. Like just with what you immediately have. Sarah and I, my wife, we reflect on this often. Is we came to this island 10 years ago. 10 years ago this summer, she had like two suitcases, 2 check bags, maybe 3, and I had what we call sea bags, right? Those that stereotypical green military bag.
Okay, yeah.
A couple of those and maybe a suitcase too, and that's what we came here with, 10 years ago. And we started renting in Mililani for like $1,300.
Okay.
Right? Because we get this thing called BAH, conversation for another time, how you use your BAH. But we got this BAH, and all I know, my financial literacy up to that point was save. And that's what I was doing, right? I had BAH, I was pocketing, as we call pocketing, so much of my BAH, and I was stacking my savings account, right? And I remember when I got to a pretty figure in my savings account, taking a look at it, having like this small sense of pride, and watching Navy Federal throw me, 4 pennies in interest, right? And I'm just like, how does one save their way to freedom? And then that's when my literally my journey into real estate kind of started, because typical homeowner story. I was on Zillow and I clicked on Tell Me More. Next thing I know, my phone's ringing, right?
Yeah.
But that allowed me to go from a 1-bedroom in Mililani to owning a 2-bedroom in Waipio. 2-bedroom in Waipio, built in 1987. I got the wall-mounted window units. Something small, but it was amazing, and it's all we needed. And we made the most of it. I mean, it was a game changer. My family thought I was crazy. Like, you're buying what? For how much? Do you know how much we bought our house for? I'm like, yeah, well, you're from Chicago suburb. Little different out here. But, we were able to upgrade, and I owned something. And then I got literally into real estate as a licensee, and then I started always learning, always learning, always learning. Then I started to understand numbers, right? Then I understand interest rates and numbers and what a payment looks like, and well, how is this prospective situation going to be different than our current situation? Okay, did the math, $200. Like, Sarah, I think we can do this. She's just like, what do you mean? Like, we already own. I'm just like, yeah, but like, hear me out. Like, I think we can, build more wealth.
Yes.
I think we can do this. Plus it's nicer. Plus it's, it's actually, the renovated like yesterday kind of thing. And it has 2 parking stalls. I don't got to walk from the baseball field anymore.
Hey.
Like, I think we can do this. And it just, it grew into that next level. And then we purchased in Cunha, and didn't listen to the person that told me I can use my VA loan only once, right? So another myth out there. But then I really just started learning money and finances, and I'm very fortunate to live where I do now. We were fortunate enough to buy a new construction, but it was because I literally had the smallest elements in order to get to this point. There's something is luck is where I forgot what it goes. Something meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And
Preparation
meets
opportunity.
Yeah. Is that what luck is?
I don't know.
I forgot what it was, but it was just like, and then, I mean, it was March 2020. Like, that was another piece that I've learned throughout the years, right? Is the Buffett mentality of be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. I personally played no part in the meme stock rave. Did I miss out? Sure. I missed out on GameStop going from $1 to 140 or something like that. I'm too dumb and scared to play that game. But when the stock market crashed in March of 2020, I'm just like, this is very artificially created here by a disease.
Right.
I think there's opportunity here. So had some stagnant cash laying around, threw it in the stock market, super conservative, S&P 500. And that would bounce back a lot faster than anybody anticipated. And it was my down payment on this house.
Wow.
So.
Oh, I love stories like that.
But it was literally because the smallest things were in order every step of the way.
Yeah. So moving forward, who knows what's going to happen in 2024? Broadly speaking, what is some advice you might have for somebody that is trying to either be, save up, be financially conservative or financially free? Because, I feel like a lot of people our age and younger are just kind of, we want to know what others are, how other people are preparing. And I feel like you've seen some things, right? You've had some wins. What's some advice you might have for maybe somebody 5 years under you?
I mean, it goes back to like the thing that we're already starting with is learn, educate oneself.
Good.
We were talking about the public education system a little bit before we got started. That's not where you're going to learn. That's where you're going to whatever, check the boxes of moving through the different grades. You have to educate oneself outside of that. Again, and I say this all the time. I've got no fear in saying this. Your entire adult existence is taxes and finances and family, and, but it's literally like those 3 things, right? At what part in, I started a master's program, and what part of those was that 16, 17, 18 years of education did we tap into any of that? Never.
Right.
Never. Right. So pick up a book and start educating oneself. And that could either, and again, going back to starting at the core, right? Find out who, I'm not going to say find out who you are, because that's a very loaded, statement, but like read books about, meaning, suffering. Like one of the best gifts that I ever had was Man's Search for Meaning. Somebody gifted me that book. Viktor Frankl. And it's literally the reason why I have multiple copies here, because in the event that I feel that can touch somebody, I'm going to give it to them.
Yeah.
Start with something like that. You know what I mean? Finding purpose in I mean, like a lot of philosophers get into it. All life is suffering, right? Well, what is the purpose of all this? You know what I mean? And I carried a lot of, I'm not, like I said, my childhood was fine. But but especially in the military and some of the things we experienced in Afghanistan, like those burdens mentally get tough to carry.
Right.
And my challenge to every man, every woman, every person who experiences those kind of, mental burdens, mental struggles, is find the meaning in it. And for me, like, the day everything changed is that I told myself that the reason why I will go to the grave with these thoughts, these visions, these negative experiences is that so that somebody else doesn't have to. You know what I mean? And that was so enlightening for me. Nothing had changed. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
No, that's beautiful.
nothing had. I was not freed from any experience. I was freed from the weight of it. You know what I mean? I gave meaning to my suffering. So going back to your question about somebody 5 years behind me, one, really think about who you are. Find out who you are in your core. If you're carrying those kind of burdens, one, you're not the only person. Right? Stop thinking that you're alone. Like, a lot of the craziness and the madness that is experienced in the world is experienced by many, right? Go seek not help, but go talk, find like-minded people to speak with and talk through these things. So again, starting at oneself, starting at one's core, finding meaning, finding purpose, right? And then from there, going back to, kind of tactically speaking, our adult existence is bills. Our adult existence is taxes and finances. Learn money.
Yeah.
We're not taught it. Learn it. Picking up books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, picking up books like Unshakable by Tony Robbins. I don't think that book is spoken of or is talked about enough,
No.
but it literally, like, it taught me about, it literally taught me about opportunity and the Buffett mentality. And it's literally the reason why I was able to put a down payment on this house. But learning about Roth IRAs, learning about the difference between, having a stock portfolio of 5 stocks that, one of those crashes, your entire portfolio can lose 25% value versus, I own every single ETF and index fund out there. So my risk, is very well diversed.
Yeah.
and there's nothing wrong with speculation and all those other things, but it's just like, build the foundation. You know what I mean? Build the financial foundation. We're going back to building the basics, right? One's self, one's room, one's family, right? The same thing financial literacy wise is build the foundation. Keep the foundation boring, right? And it's not a savings account. Sorry, Mom. Not the best advice.
Yeah.
It's not a savings account. It's a Roth IRA, right? It's a Roth IRA with, the VOO Vanguard ETF or the S&P 500 index fund, something like that. But pick up those books, put down your phone, like, this is, and I'm, again, not above it. It's a reminder to myself, if anything.
Sure.
This is turning us into zombies, right? I mean, literally, I had to put there's a setting in Instagram, everybody, that you can be like, hey, after X amount of minutes, please tell me to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I finally did that, and I suggest that to anybody. But while there is wisdom on social media and everything, that's probably not what your platforms are showing to you. Not to many, right? Mm-hmm. There's probably a bunch of controversial things and things that are of more of the mind, or I'm sorry, of more of the flesh and the body than is of the mind.
Sure.
Right. So, get yourself in order and pick up a book.
I love it. If somebody wants to work with you, wants to get in contact with you, how can they do that? On the internet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My last name, my last name's a little complicated, I guess, to so many. But find me on Instagram, Dan Sepulveda, Sepulveda.
Mm-hmm. And what's your website again?
Oahu Paradise Properties.
Awesome.
OahuParadiseProperties.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Today we talked with Dan Sepulveda, principal broker of Real Broker or The Real Brokerage. I'm not sure how we're branding these days.
Real Broker in Hawaii.
Yeah, it is the fastest growing real estate brokerage firm in the state of Hawaii. Stock price is up 100%. I don't know, shameless plug.
Yeah,
But
get in. It's still practically a penny stock.
yeah. But so much of the culture at this firm is because of you. So I wanted to thank you for that. And it's a pleasure talking with you today. And it's a pleasure working with you here at the brokerage firm. Thanks,
Likewise,
Dan.
brother. Appreciate you, man.